Right, from Austin Rover to Mercedes, on their home ground here, of course, with a massive stand and a new car to launch. For years, for decades, they've been a dominating force in the big luxury saloon car market. Now they decided to force their way back into the middle of that market with their new lower-priced 190. Sue Baker has been trying it out.
The 190 is the third range of models in the family of cars with the three-pointed star on the bonnet. It joins the W and S classes of Mercedes, and it was heralded as the new, smaller Mercedes. It's a foot shorter than the nearest model in the range, the W123, but at 14.5 feet, it's by any other standards a big car. It's launched initially in two versions, both with the same engine. This is the 190 carburettor model, and the other is the 190E fuel injection. The full range is going to include the new high-performance model and a diesel. This car is an automatic, which is what most Mercedes customers seem to want. But on the 190, that's an optional extra. The standard gearbox is a 4-speed manual. Now, I think the optional 5-speed manual gearbox really ought to be standard on a car of this quality. The driving seat has a quite remarkable amount of fore and aft travel on it. That's in the Mercedes tradition, but it can accommodate even the tallest driver. There's a disadvantage to that, as you'll see in the back. With the front seat fully back, there's scarcely any knee room behind. Now, I'm not very tall. I think a taller person in the back might be very seriously embarrassed by the amount of room they have there. And I think that's a disappointing feature of this car. The feeling you always get with a Mercedes is that it sits solidly on the road, and this one's no exception. It seems to inspire confidence. There's a lovely feeling to the ride, super road holding, the brakes are good, and the steering really seems to be feeding back to you what's happening on the road. This car is very good aerodynamically. It has a drag factor of 0.33, and that reflects in the quietness of the wind noise over the car. It's also rather better than some other good aerodynamic cars in its performance on the motorway. It's not very susceptible to crosswinds, and I like that. It's perhaps because the wind noise is low that you notice the engine sounds as though it's working hard, especially in the higher speed ranges. This is, after all, only a 2-litre 4-cylinder engine with a brake horsepower of 88, and that's not particularly meaty for towing around a car that, after all, weighs more than a tonne. The performance isn't particularly sparkling. It's 14 seconds 0 to 60 acceleration time, and the top speed is in the region of 107 miles an hour, although this speedometer would tell you it's doing quite a bit more. I think the fuel injection version of this same engine would be rather more enjoyable.
Mercedes are well known for the solid quality of the construction of their cars. They spend a vast sum each year, more than £350 million, on research and development. Meticulous testing is designed to ensure that their cars are capable of standing up to the conditions of terrain or climate anywhere in the world. In 3 weeks, this test rig simulates a lifetime's motoring, of doors opening and closing 100,000 times, the boot 20,000 times, and the bonnet 5,000 times. Every individual component is endurance tested to detect signs of wear or breakage which might occur over years of normal use. Components are put through tests at temperatures from Arctic to tropical, and also when coated with dust. Electrical motors are subjected to endurance tests to ensure their durability under constant hard use. A special feature of the 190 is the multi-link independent rear suspension. It has this series of arms connecting the wheel to the axle, and that controls very rigidly the movement of the suspension, especially over rough surfaces.
It uses an idea borrowed from racing cars and not normally seen on production models. And it's designed to counteract what's known as bump steer, when the back of the car pitches about over a rough road, and that adversely affects the steering. Here on the hydropulsator, the same suspension suffers a simulated 1,200 miles of punishing treatment. First, another car is driven over a piece of proving ground known as the torture track, and a magnetic tape is made of the resulting stresses. This, fed into a computer, repeats the treatment over a far greater distance than any test driver could possibly endure. The 190 takes Mercedes into an area of the market they haven't been in before, and where the competition is much fiercer than they've been used to. At £9,685 for the carburettor model and over £10,400 for the 190E, I think the car will appeal most strongly to those drivers who've always fancied the prestige of a Mercedes, but who until now couldn't quite afford the price.
Well, we can now bring that story right up to date because Mercedes have now decided to bring the 190 into the UK with a 5-speed box and power steering as standard, as indeed Sue suggested they might. Price is a little changed. The basic 190 now a little over £9,600. The upmarket version, the 190E, a little over £10,600.